Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Garage Gym Athlete Podcast. I'm your host, Jared Moon. The Garage Gym Athlete Podcast is a result of my desire to build better humans, unequivocal coaches, and autonomous athletes. I've spent the last several years obsessing over program design, nutrition, and every other way you can optimize human performance. This podcast distills the latest scientific research with what I've learned and blends it with the not-so-scientific field of mental toughness. We are here to build you into a dangerously effective athlete. If you enjoy this podcast, you can find out more about our training at garagegymathlete.com. And if you want to pursue more into the field of coaching and programming, head to endof3fitness.com. Thanks for listening. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Garage Gym Athlete Podcast. Jared Moon here with Ashley Hicks. How's it going, Ashley?
What's up, guys?
You like that sound quality? Yeah, it's going to be awesome because we're all actually sitting together in person. We have Joe Courtney. What's up, Joe?
Hi.
And Kyle Strum. How's it going?
Hey.
There we go. And these are the voices of just having finished a Spartan race for several hours. And we're going to get into the Spartan Beast, what it was like, all those things shortly, because we are sitting at a lake house here in North Carolina, about 20-25 minutes away from where we just did the race. This is the day after, so really this publishes on Monday. We're recording it on Sunday. This is as fresh as it gets in the podcasting world for being able to record and then turn around and also publish it. So we'll do updates for everybody since we last spoke, and then we'll get into like some Spartan stuff. So Ashley, how's life been since the last time we talked?
Good. I'm a nomad. Don't have a house yet, but we've had some really awesome friends who have put us up. And so we've lived in the TLF on base, and then we lived in Destin for a week, which was pretty great. And then, then we drove here for the Spartan race, which you had the better choice. We chose poorly. We did it all in one day.
Oh, yeah.
And it was fine. I have a 14-month-old, so he screams when he wants something because he can't really communicate. So in the car, that shrill is it's a little tough. But overall,
piercing.
Yes.
Close quarters.
Yeah.
Joe, how about you, man? Updates.
I've been in North Carolina all week, just hanging out. Ran once or twice. Really nothing. Yeah.
Did a Spartan.
Yeah, just a Spartan. Basically just been hanging out with family. And my house is all alone back in San Diego because Liz is gone for a month.
Oh.
So that's what I'm returning to.
Who's got the dog?
We have a dog sitter.
Oh, that's nice.
From Rover.
All right. And so now he got enough crap last podcast on his update ability. So I'm very interested to hear.
You can't take our updates.
Updates from Kyle. How's life been since the last time we chatted?
Life has been good. My daughter had a birthday, actually.
Aww.
She turned 1, so that's a big deal.
It is a big deal. 1 is a big deal.
Big step. This week leading up to the race was interesting. Actually, Friday on the way, I had some things that I needed to get done Friday before I left and came here, and woke up and my son had like 100.7 degree fever.
Ooh.
So, nope, got to dad all day.
Yeah.
Aww.
And not get stuff done. So that was a fun time. Life just kind of throws stuff at you. But anyway, it was good. So got to spend some time with the boy though. So that was good.
That's good. Well, updates for me, as Ashley said, I broke my travel up way more than necessary just because we've done a lot of trips. Really in the military, we were put in that situation a lot of times. Like I had to drive to New York, down New York City, basically to Florida.
Ooh.
And I had like a day and a half to do it to get to base on time. And William was, not even a year old yet. Like it was just some rough situations. So I tried to avoid those as much as possible. I drove from Texas to North Carolina over the course of 3 days. We only drove about 5 hours a day. And Emily didn't even come with me. Emily did, she got to fly with the 19-month-old Eleanor, and for that very reason, it's like, yeah, I'm not shoving the baby in the car for this long of a trip. I did some hotel workouts, and that is about it on my updates. So we're going to get into the Spartan race we all just finished yesterday. Spartan Beast. Joe, how many miles did it end up being in total?
My watch was right at 15.
15 miles. Yeah.
That was with one of their penalty loops, which was probably like a third of a mile or something.
Well, and they had the
Yeah.
15-mile sign like right at the end too. Like so they were even charting it at 15, which pretty aggressive. So 15-mile race here in North Carolina. We had 10 plus Garage Gym athletes join us, which was really cool. We kind of ended up splitting unintentionally into a fast group and a slow group. We were all in the slow group, and just
I was the tail end of the slow group.
and just to stick together. I tried to let everybody know ahead of time, like, hey, I'm just here to have a good time. Not really interested in seeing how fast I can do this. So that's kind of what I focused on.
The good time didn't last long.
The good time.
Yeah,
No.
the good times.
Yeah, we're going to get to that. I mean, there were some definite challenges in not prepping for a Spartan race of this size. So I'm going to go around. I kind of want to do like highest moment and lowest moment of the race. So we'll just start with highest from everybody. Then we'll go to lowest, which is probably more conversation in the lowest section. And then we'll talk about just, tips, tricks we learned from doing a Spartan race, more or less untrained. We were all on the hard to kill track, which was definitely a bad decision. Not because the hard to kill track is poor, but when you're going anything above 13 miles, you need to be on something like the Enduro track, which is specifically designed for longer duration stuff like that. So let's go with highest moments or like favorite part of the race. Ashley.
I would say my favorite part of the race was getting to know people. So being in the slow group, we kind of chatted a little bit as we were running or walking. And so I definitely loved getting to talk and chat with people about like life, random stuff. I would say my highest like racing moment, like point, was when I ran with you and Kurt at like mile 11. I just got this.
Yeah, you got a second or third or fifth win,
Yeah.
or whatever it
Left
was.
me in the dust.
But yeah.
I did. I was like, bye, Joe. Here I go. So, I felt really great at about mile 11. So I was like, let's finish this thing.
Awesome. Joe, highest moment. I'm assuming there was one.
Yeah, it was right before I started limping. It was that A-frame one with the grip and the holes. The one that like as people were approaching it, the guy that was overseeing it was just like, yeah, nobody's really getting this one. Yeah, you just do burpees. I was like, no, I'm gonna do this.
Is that the one that killed our hands?
Yeah, the one that so like we did it and it hurt like hell, and then we got off of it and then we were just doubled over because our hands were wrecked.
That
but
was some painful hand.
I completed it,
stuff.
and it was cool to do that. To do something that not a lot of people were finishing.
Kyle.
Ashley actually kind of stole mine, so now I have to make up one.
She does that.
I enjoy meeting our athletes and stuff too.
Yeah.
Especially as a former athlete, being a coach now. That's a really big deal for me. I have just always liked the burden carry obstacles. So like the sandbag and the buckets and the stones and stuff like that. So I don't know, just picking up something heavy and walking with it. I don't know. It just makes me feel accomplished.
Those are like the easiest ones, I think.
I know
for
they are
us.
the easiest ones, but I don't know. I just
No, like for us, like because I think all of our athletes kind of felt.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
we do a lot of carries.
Yeah.
And like,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's like
Heavy
do more,
stuff,
do
yeah.
more of these. And
There's-
not-
But it's coming up to something like that and being like, I got this one. Yeah, especially for me, I did so many burpees yesterday. It was so bad. But coming up to that one, it's like, I got this. Like, I'm not putting this thing down.
Yeah, and I did the bucket carry several years ago in my first Beast, and remembering like that being the most challenging part of the race. And this is before like really Garage Gym Athlete had kicked off or anything, and I was doing frequent carries and all that other stuff. But I remember specifically that was the hardest part, the hardest obstacle, if you will, for me. I don't know how long it's been, 4 or 5 years now that I did that first Beast, and now those are like sandbag carries and the bucket carries are just like part of it. I'm like those I feel the most prepared for walking into it, and I feel like they could be longer actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
So my favorite part, like I definitely enjoyed hanging out with all the athletes. Like that was a lot of fun. I'm gonna go ahead and specifically single someone out as my favorite kind of moment, just as a community and programming wise and everything, is Trampus. So big shout out to Trampus. And the reason I'm calling him out right now is because I did, we all did you weren't there, but the Asheville Spartan with Trampus last year.
Mm.
And it just didn't go great for him. Like it didn't go great for you either.
Yeah.
Right? Like there was just
I got injured.
You got injured. He hit a major wall. Basically, it wasn't necessarily all conditioning on Trampus's part. I talked to him a little bit during the race. I was like, what's the biggest difference here? And it was just like learning how to fuel properly, nutrition-wise, and things like that. And I mean, like, we finished the race yesterday, like, body-wise, he was probably the most put together. Like, he had been on the endure track for the entire time. And so seeing that kind of progression to where, you know, he's running right next to me the entire race, basically, doing fine. After the race, he's in better shape than everyone else. You know, I thought that was awesome to see. You know, and it's him putting in the work. It's not anything I've done or anything we've done. It's just really cool to see someone's progression from, like, you know, the Asheville to now. It's just really cool. So I think that was definitely my favorite part.
Well, he and I ran the Asheville again this summer, and he was the one pushing me. You know what I mean? Like, not me pushing him. He was the one, like, pushing me and helping me get through it. So yeah, it's the same thing. Like, he's built for it now. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he is prepared. All right, now we get to probably everyone's favorite part that we could talk about for longer periods of time.
Long time.
Your least favorite part of the race, most challenging mentally. It could be physically, anything you want. And I'll start with you, Ashley. What was the hardest part of this race?
So I would say there was 2 really low moments for me. In between mile 9 and 10, Joe and I were kind of just together and we were running. I kept telling him, like, I'm super lightheaded. So we got to, I forget what obstacle it was. It was one of those climb over ones that I couldn't even do. So before I even decided to go do my burpees, I remember I went to the bathroom and just knocked out some chews, the margarita chews.
Yeah.
And I was like, please, dear Lord, do not. I was kind of concerned because I don't get lightheaded during workouts pretty much ever. But I don't know if it was the extra sodium in those margarita chews or what it was.
3 times the sodium.
Yes. That definitely helped me. And so, and then the lowest of the low point was, I think it was after the mud, barbed wire underqual. They make you get in the water and dunk underneath. And I was just like, I am done, because it was so cold between the wind and the rain. And oh yeah, by the way, it rained on us the entire
I didn't like set
race.
the stage for
Yeah.
Let's paint the picture.
Yeah. So just go back to the Spartan race. So it's a beast. It's a half marathon, really more than that, because we ended up doing 15 miles. But the forecast, the actual words in the forecast was drenching rain, and that was pretty true. And to get hypothermia, it needs to be a degree below your body temperature. That's all. Like, you could get hypothermia in 97-degree water if you're in there long enough. And so anything below that, and it's in the low 50s, raining on us, no reprieve, no warmth. And so that was a major part of, I'm not jumping into my major takeaways. I just want people to know, like, yeah, it wasn't just a Spartan race, because I've done a few of them now. This one was very different because the course was kind of flooded out, and then also just getting rained on, and like the second you stop, you start shivering. Like, it was really cold too. So
yeah. So having to get in that water and dunk underneath, and then I came up under, and I do specifically, so I don't remember very many photographers, but I do specifically remember the photographer taking a photo of me right after, and my face, I'm probably pissed. Like, I was so angry after that day. I was like, I'm done. Where is the finish line? So that was my lowest.
So I hate the underwater thing in general, but I hate the placement of it. Like, that should be the last thing you do, because you're pissed, but also you're clean. Your mud's off.
You
like,
off, yeah.
It would be make so much more sense.
No, I think they purposefully like try to drag you through as much mud as they can right before the end for the spectator portions. They're like, they want you to be super muddy.
Yeah.
I don't care to have. I mean, that's why you have photographers.
I don't
get
care.
the mud out of the place.
I'm saying they care. Like, because I really feel like it's not super muddy during the race, and then all of a sudden they're having you like slide down mud hills and like all this other stuff.
Ugh.
Yeah, by the way, people are paying to come and watch people do this.
Yeah,
only in certain. I mean, they can only be in certain areas, and it's mostly like family members and stuff like that. But like, they're also standing around watching everybody else. And yeah.
All right, Joe. Lowest moment, man.
Oh man, I think you know.
I'm not sure I do. Well, I think I do.
Yeah, I think
it was my funniest moment of the race.
It was kind of around that giant treacherous hill. It was just so stupid, so unsafe. So like, you're coming, it's within the last mile was just the worst, because you're a mile away, quote unquote, but you're like basically at the base camp. But then they're like, no, we're just going to take a hard left and go down this giant treacherous hill and then do some other loops, some other obstacles, and then down another really, really slippery, straight slope down hill that you have to slide on. But then there's rocks and jagged sticks
and people,
and like you can't slow yourself down, and you're just hitting rocks, hitting people, and it was just completely awful. And you're like, look, the finish line's right there. Let's just cut this right here.
Right.
You immediately go back up the hill right after. So they were just trying to
mess with your mind.
Yeah. Well, no, I think they just wanted to pump up their elevation numbers in ascent numbers. So that was just absolutely stupid. And then once we got back up that hill, you could all tell for us, we were just like walking past the obstacle.
we were the Walking Dead.
No, you guys, well, I'm done with you.
I'd say it was the funniest moment for me because, like, I mean, I don't know. It's an online business. Like, I don't see Joe angry very often. And, we're not like, unlike other working spaces, we're not all like sitting next to each other. All like we have our meeting times, we meet, whatever. Everyone goes and does their own thing. So like, you don't really get to see anybody get pissed off. And Joe was like pissed, and you got under control by the end. But that slide, man, we were about to go down that big giant mud hill, and you're like, "This is stupid. Like it's unsafe. I don't like it." And I'm just like just laughing.
Kept going. I need to write a letter. I'm going to write a letter today.
And I was partly laughing just because I also like 100% agreed. I was like, "This is just so dumb." But I was like laughing, sliding all the way down because I'm like, it hurts. Like everything started cramping at that point. It was pretty interesting. All right, Kyle, what was your lowest moment?
Mine was actually at roughly the same point when I came up out of the water, and I was waiting on Kyle Johnson, and I were bringing up the rear, and I was waiting on him to finish, and I got up and I'm like, finish line, but I have to go this way.
Right, you can see the end.
And I get over. I mean, you're looking at the finish line, but I look over and I'm like, okay, I have to go this way and go down this hill. Okay, so I'll go down one more hill, and then I get to the top of that hill and look over, and nope, there's another one that I have to come down, and I have to come up again. And I was just, I think I was telling y'all earlier, I got to a point where I was trying to be in the coach mentality with Kyle there, and be like, just stay positive. Literally almost done. Like, we're in the final mile here, like just a couple more. And then like 5 minutes later, I was like, this is the dumbest thing I've ever seen. I got to the bottom of that slide hill. And when he got to the bottom, I looked him in the eyes. I was like, that is the most idiotic thing I've ever seen in my life. Just why in the world did they make us do that?
Yeah, once you start questioning people's, and that's what I talk about in the Iron Mile, is like that's what happens to people in the Iron Mile. It's a much shorter dose, but normally that's why like I have a really long write up for the Iron Mile about what you're probably going to go through mentally, because at first you're like you put it on your back and you're walking, and then you get to like 800 meters and you have to come back and you're like, you know what? This is stupid. Jared's stupid. This is unsafe. This hurts. Like that's what happens to people on the Iron Mile. You go from like, you know what, I'm going to do this. I could do it. And then you get to the like, you're questioning the intelligence of whoever put it together, and like you don't think it's a good idea. And so to me, that's part of a mental breakdown. I think we all, not actual breakdown, but like a meeting yourself moment. Mm-hmm. We all got there at some point, for sure. So the cold water submersion was definitely up there for me in my worst moment, but I'm going to go ahead and have to like just go ahead to post race, because that was maybe my lowest physical moment I've ever had, and I've done a lot of crazy stuff. We finished the race. I felt fine, like absolutely fine, up until really right after we
like last 800 meters for you.
Yeah, like things shut down. Like my body just shut down. But I was surprised at how good I felt. Like I was worried about my hip flexors, and they didn't hurt like almost the entire race. Mm-hmm. And then it was probably the last half mile. I just like, I can't really walk anymore. Mm-hmm. Like this is becoming very challenging. Then every time, like we had a few obstacles left, every time I touched an obstacle, I would cramp up somewhere. And I knew I had plenty of electrolytes in me, so there was nothing I could do. I was like, I'm not going to pound more. And then we finished the race. We had to wait a little bit on Kyle, and
had to wait a lot of bit on
it.
Kyle.
Felt like forever.
But we're standing there, like honestly, in wet clothing, not moving, shivering. Me, Ashley, and Joe, like all huddled next to each other, just like shaking violently. I can't even really walk anymore. Like honestly, can barely walk at all. Mm. And then our car is somewhere between a half mile, mile away.
Yeah.
Yep.
And we had to walk there, and I knew, like, I was like, this is going to be the most challenging part of the race for me. Like, I know for a fact, because I just couldn't walk. I could not walk. My hip flexors had basically shut down. They just were no longer working. So I had to walk a combination of sideways karaoke and backwards to forwards, like, because we all left to start walking towards the car, and Joe and Ashley got there pretty fast, and then Kyle got there, and then I don't know, I was like 10 minutes behind you guys. You know, I was going so slow. People were like walking up to me, they're like, "You all right?" I'm like, no, but like, there's nothing you can do for me. So that was definitely my lowest moment, because I just had never been in that situation like that broken before. And you know, what's weird about that though, I can't explain it, because we got in the car, had about a 30-minute drive back, and then I was fine after that. I mean, not like fully recovered or anything, but my hip flexors, I can walk again, like no problem. Just, I mean, a little bit of discomfort from the soreness, but that was definitely my lowest moment. I mean, I put it up there, top 3 for sure of like worst things I've done. Of all the events, was the post Spartan race walk. That was like one of the hardest things I've ever done, which is just crazy. All right, so let's kind of transition to tips, tricks, takeaways from having done this, since none of us trained more than probably 50 minutes per day on the hard to kill track, maybe an hour a day.
No trail runs.
3 to 5 days a week, no trail runs. Me, no running at all because of my knee. Like, I did a 7-mile run, and I did some Murph. You know, you guys know I'm doing Murph every week, but like that's basically it. So really no prep. So if someone was going to jump into this, what would your advice for them be, Ashley?
So we kind of chatted about this in our team meetings or in on our Slack chat, but basically the fuel. Like, I really think, because if you think about it, none of us ate real food from the time we got up, which was around 6 o'clock, 5:30, whenever it was people got up, till we finished the race at like 2:30, 3 o'clock ish.
2:30.
Yeah. We got back to the house around 4. And then we all kind of took a shower and then did not even eat real food to about 4:30. So those electrolyte chews, like we had Cliff Bar chew blocks, whatever. Yeah, Cliff Box. We had salt tabs, those salt biscuits that you had.
Right.
Like, that is what kept us going. And to be fair, like, that is what I think fuel. So if you have the correct fuel, you can totally do this, because I have never, like, in my entire life, I have never run anything more than 5 miles. Like, that's it. In soccer, you don't run very long. You know, you got short little sprint bursts, whatnot. So yeah, like that's what I would say for somebody. Make sure that, and hydrate properly. Like, when you are at the water stations, make sure you get a good cup of water, maybe 2. Yeah, that would be my trick.
I think we did fuel a lot better than Asheville.
Oh yeah,
But-
we didn't fuel at Asheville.
Yeah, but it was the opposite too, because I feel like I hydrated a lot more in Asheville. I was always drinking water at Asheville because it was actually warm then and sunny. But here I was like, I'm cold, and I'm standing there. I'm not trying to drink cold water. And I just stopped. And you just don't feel like you're sweating as much because you're just drenched anyway.
Right.
I didn't fuel as much in Asheville. It wasn't like from an ignorance standpoint. It was, I thought that race was going to be a lot quicker than it was.
Yeah.
Because I had a huge shake before we went,
Yeah.
like plenty of carbohydrates and protein and like everything. I was like, okay, this should carry me through, if not like close to the end. But I thought we had like a 2.5 hour, 3 hour race, which would have been perfect.
Yeah.
And the Asheville, how long did the Asheville?
It was over 5.
Yeah, like getting close to 6 hours. And like, so yeah, that's why I hit a wall at hour 4, not appropriately prepared. And when you hit that wall, they didn't have cliff blocks at any of the stations, did they?
No, they did not, which is
like,
crazy.
Because in Asheville, I don't know if I would have finished that race, because they had cliff blocks for us.
Oh, so they provided it.
They did at
Halfway through,
one
one
station they did, but then this race, all they had was water.
And pickle juice.
Yeah, pickle juice one time, and so like we would have been heavily screwed if we did not fuel ourselves. So, Joe, what's your, I don't know, advice for anybody looking to do a Spartan, maybe as trained as we were?
Invest in a fanny pack.
Fanny pack.
Yes.
Now available at the merchandise store.
So for training wise, you definitely have to get on some trails, some running, some hills, some uneven ground. You know, you mentioned earlier, I think last night we were running kind of at an angle where one leg is higher than the other, and you're kind of like one foot is higher than the other. So, which you're not really used to running on the road, and that could really that's where your hip flexors get jacked up. And then just mileage in general, like my hamstring blew out at about mile 8 or so. my left one, so I was limping for almost the rest of the race because I just wasn't used to the miles.
Dude, you were a champ though. Like if it was flat level ground, he'd still run. Like he would run, or he'd be like, okay, it's downhill, we can run. I'm like, okay, let's run. And then we'd get to the hill and he'd be like, okay, I gotta walk again. This is gonna hurt. And poor thing, the best part about running with Joe is his sound effects. Sound effects with
So
Joe.
many old man sound effects.
It's so great.
It was like an Indian chief like ceremony. All the yeah.
Yeah, that you definitely need to put in the mileage. Like there's no, and the biggest contrasting story, I mentioned it this morning, I think to Ashley, but the first time I did the 100-mile bike race, it was on a stupid bike and I was just doing it as a mental toughness challenge. I wasn't prepped for it at all. And I was wrecked. My body was wrecked for several days after, but I did it, right? And that's a completely different type of event. I did the 100-mile bike race this year, which is 3 years post my first time, and like not even sore the next day. Like I'm just fine because I specifically trained for the cycling race. And that's a big deal. And so it's the same with running. If you were to be on the endure track, you would be a little bit more prepared for it. So you definitely need to put in a little bit more prep. Kyle, what would your...
Well, that kind of plays into my tip for this would be don't do a Spartan Beast untrained. Like,
yeah, don't do what we just did.
Right.
The Beast is probably too far for fully untrained.
Well, that's the thing is, the supers, I feel that most of our athletes, if you're consistent with the training, even if you're, on the hard to kill track, which is what we've been on, or you could do the endure track, or you could probably do any of our tracks. And a sprint and a super a sprint is going to be fine for anybody who's doing our training. A super
at 9 miles yesterday, if we would have walked off the track at 9 miles, I would have just been like perfect.
A super is going to be fine for anybody who's doing our training, but a beast, it's just the distance is just too different. It's too much further. And so I would say don't go into a Spartan Beast untrained. Like do some of the stuff that you like, especially do some hip flexor stuff. Make sure that you're doing your burpees or doing some box step ups or box jumps or something. Do something like that and put, like Joe said, like put the miles in. If you can get on some trails, get on some trails because that distance is just too much further. It's so much further than because I got
13 miles, right?
I was gonna say if the race director didn't add those 2 miles, it might be a different story too.
Yeah. I probably would have been fine at 13 too. I was fine at 9. I was fine at 13. It was the 13 to 15 where things started to slowly degrade.
Yeah,
and you didn't even do the 2 penalty loops. Like in those 2 penalty loops, those were not
big.
Those suckers were gnarly. Yeah.
Yes.
But it was because the super is as far as I had ever run up to this point. And I got to that mile 9 sign yesterday, and I kind of stopped, and just like looked at it because I was like, all right, from here on is like
the furthest you've ever.
Yeah, it's like every step I take, like it's a PR, and this is unknown territory for me. But then, and so I was kind of like, oh yeah, that's cool. It's mile 9, and then it was like, crap, I've still got like 5 to go.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. And but it was, I would say, don't do a beast untrained. Like you could do our programming and get through a sprint. You could definitely get through a sprint, and you can get through a super just fine. I mean, focus on the fuel and stuff for the super, but you're going to get through a super just fine. But the beast, don't do it untrained.
Yeah,
just don't do it.
My advice is going to go to mental, because just a reframing while you're in there. Because I think normally when I get into those situations, I'm always like, the crappier it gets, I'm like, this opportunity for mental toughness is just getting better and better to like sharpen that side of the axe. And you don't get those opportunities very often. So just finding yourself, that's the whole thing about the Meet Yourself Saturday thing. Like, I used to do Murph. I'd do as hard as I can. Sometimes it would take me to the second mile to meet yourself. And the further you can push that benchmark out to meeting yourself, the better, right? So like I didn't meet myself yesterday until the very, 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 very end, right? So like, that my meet yourself benchmark mentally has gone very far, but once I find it, that's kind of like a happy place for me, but it's not at the same time, right? It's a dichotomy because I'm like, oh great, I remember this guy. He's the guy who wants to complain and quit and like all these other things. Like I've seen you before, and so it's like this conversation I get to have with a deeper version of myself, and like, hey, how can I reframe this situation? How can I like look at it differently? Like, and so it really is a great opportunity. So and we had all the right elements for it being crappy. Like it was longer than it was supposed to be. It rained the entire time. It was cold. Just a lot of situations, a lot of elements that make it worse than a normal race. That I've done a lot of Spartans before, so I think it was good. And so, just being mindful is my real takeaway. Like you get into these situations, that's the real I never do these events because I'm looking to have a competitive time. Like I've never done one. Like I've always done it in a group, and like we're going kind of slow or whatever. I've done one by myself. That was my first one, which was a beast. And even then it was like, that was a bad situation. And I won't get into that, but, you get to these points where you will have a low moment mentally, and don't just like start that spiral of like, oh, this is crappy. Like, well, you need to at least detach yourself enough to be like, I am going down that path right now. How much you might not be able to like fully change into like, I'm happy to be here. But like, if you can at least be aware of where your mental state is at and try to reframe it as much as you can, like this helps some people, it doesn't. But like, if you could just compare yourself to someone else's situation in that moment, or like, I kept thinking of Navy SEALs during it. Like when I was cold, because I would stand there and like shiver and shake like uncontrollably. And I'm like, Navy SEALs like live in this situation for months, and I only have to do it for like another hour. Like it's not, it's not that bad. Those kind of things help me. A lot of people don't give a rat's ass about what someone else is going through. So I understand it doesn't help everybody. I've coached a lot of people and understand that helps some, doesn't. But any reframing you could do is huge.
Yeah, that was something that I had to do as well. I just had to kind of keep telling myself, because that guy popped up, for me. Actually, he popped up for me pretty early on.
That's good though.
And I was like, yeah, the only way out is forward. You know what I mean? Because actually, in the first super we did, I rolled my ankle 3 miles in and had to withdraw. And so the last two, like the one yesterday and the super back in July, like I actually like taped my ankles to try to keep that from happening. I stepped on a rock at like mile 4 yesterday, and it rolled on me, even with tape on, and I was like, and that little dude was like, "Oh man, you rolled your ankle again. You could, you probably need to get out of this." And no.
Yeah, that's what happens.
No, I'm not.
This is that's the hardest point for me. A lot of times is when my brain starts the unsafe conversation, because I'm not stupid when it comes to unsafe. Like I'll push myself, but if we're getting like unsafe, most of the time the safety will win, because I have no interest in hurting myself. And so that is the hardest one for me to talk about, or like really like rationalize. Are you truly being unsafe, or is your brain like just slipping in, slipping in like enough of an excuse for you to try and quit right now? And that's always that's the biggest challenge or conversation I have with most of the things I do. Like heat in Texas, like I run into that situation like even with Murph. If I'm going as fast as I can in Murph and like it's super hot, and then I'm like, well, am I getting close to heat stroke, or am I just hot and uncomfortable? You kind of have to like really weigh which one it is. Did you get into any interesting mental conversations yesterday?
Yeah, I think you like at the very so this was my first one, which I decided to do a beast, my first one. Woohoo. But Jared looked at me after the very beginning. I don't know if you remember that, when we hit the first obstacle. And you looked at me and you're like, "How do you feel so far?" And I was like, "This is effing stupid." Like I was so mad because I felt like they made the very beginning real, like, again, it was steep, and then you came down and you were sliding, and the entire time all I kept going is, what is this? What am I doing? Like, and I was saying this out loud, so people were laughing hysterically around me, and I did not care. I was like, why am I here? And so the entire time I was like, is this what this is going to have to be like? And yes, it is. It is what it's going to be like.
I saw that transition in you throughout the race. Like you started off worse than you ended. You were like, because you'd never done a Spartan before, so you're like, oh, it's this the whole time. This is stupid. Like, because it's, and I think that's what happened. I think what happens with everyone's Spartan race, you're like, really? Like, I could fall down here, or like, this is dangerous, or I'm going to poke an eye out, or, the guy who like lost a finger yesterday, like legitimately that happens. Like, you think you start having those honest conversations with yourself, but then, you had whatever mile 10 or whatever, when you started jogging, you were smiling and laughing and like good to go. So,
well, my thing too was, I think again, Trampus is great. I talked to Kyle, I talked to Joe, I talked to Kyle Johnson. Like, I think that was great. it's always been a community thing for us, but like that was really cool to be able to like, kind of rely on each other, and it takes your mind off of it. Really, it does. And I mean, even if you're jogging, like you're still able to keep like a conversational pace. So especially if you're not going balls to the wall on something like this. So that I think was very helpful. But I also was telling Kyle later, I have a friend, Michaela Lieber, and she always, when she hit something like that, she would sing the every move I make in you, you make me move Jesus. And there was literally a part where I was like, every step I take in you. I'm like, I can totally do this. I can totally finish. Like, I'm alive and breathing. You're going to get to that finish line. Like, you will not stop.
Yeah, it's a fun time. Joe.
Yeah, I was with you in the beginning. I saw the culture shock kind of settle in. I'm like, all right, this might be long. So was it?
No, I just want to know, like, if you're any mental conversations you had. Like, was it? I mean, I know where your anger set in. Like that was that was obvious. But was there any like mental reframing where you're like, I need to fix myself right here, or like
probably 8 or 9 because that's when my hamstring really locked up, my left one, and I was like, I still have like 5 miles apparently within to go. It's like I can still kind of jog. I can still kind of.
Conversation gets very different when your body stops working.
Yeah. Because then I was like, man, I don't even know how far I am from any post, and if I get out of this, I'm still gonna have to sit in the cold. So then I reached past mile 11. I was like, you know what? I'm only 3 miles away. I could suck this up for 3 miles and walk some. Well, that last mile was like an hour long. So if I knew that, maybe at mile 11 it might have been different. But
well, I think you guys saw, like, from me, like I had to do both penalty loops yesterday, which they framed as better than doing 30 burpees. I disagree. And I hate 30 burpees.
I think everybody was different on that. Like, some people were like, oh, I'd rather do a penalty lap all day. And some people were like, no, I'd rather do burpees. But
not those penalty laps. Well, because on one of them, I was coming back up hill and my yes, that's exactly it. My hamstrings
I saw
locked.
You beating your
like my quads just locked, and like my leg would not bend. I was trying to come up the hill, and I was like I was talking to it. I was like, you have to move. Like, you do not get to lock.
We are not far enough in this race.
No, and I got up to the top, and y'all saw me. Like, I was pissed, but like I was like punching myself in the leg. Like, I have
Jared
to do
and I
something.
were offering commentary on what was going on.
Yeah. I saw a lot of anger on your face.
Yeah, I was in a dark place.
Your obstacle face was my favorite.
You get to an obstacle and just stare at it for like 30 seconds, like angry. And I'd be like, man, I'm glad I'm not that obstacle.
Yeah.
You just run right through a wall one time.
Oh, man.
Yeah, but so another shout out to all the athletes who came out.
Absolutely.
Awesome on all of you guys for coming out, doing that race. Everyone finished, and everyone did a great job. And
no one died. And so really cool to have the community there. I'm sure we'll do some more stuff next year. I don't know if we're going to do any more beasts. Like,
no.
I'm fine with a sprint or super, but we might find some other things to do, or maybe just invent our own events. That's my goal, my dream, to be able to do that. But
it's one thing to like have athletes and talk about workouts and do that, but actually like see them do the workouts, but also like see them break down and like have their mental obstacles and physical obstacles and stuff like that is just different from coaching and other standpoints.
Yeah, it was really cool. Like Kurt Law, he's one of our athletes. He was pretty much in our group the whole time, and he just kept an amazing attitude. Like I saw no fluctuation
until he cramped at the top of that last hill.
Yeah, the last hill he had the calf cramp.
Well, and then we both him and I, we both went under the water and came out at the same time, and we both were like, I was like, that was my moment, Kurt. I just met myself right there. And he's like, me too, dude. And but he did great. But I saw his ankle completely go like sideways, like parallel to the ground. And then he just kept running. I was like, are you okay? And he's like, yeah. He's like, I've done that a few times. And I was like, but he was good last night when he came over. So I think everything's good to go. But yeah, really cool. So if anybody wants to hop on the next one, just keep listening to the podcast. I'm sure we'll announce it as things get closer. But we're going to move to Meet Yourself Saturday. So Thanksgiving is coming up this week, and there's a tradition around here, the Geo Metro Thanksgiving Throwdown. So I put this workout together a long time ago. Ashley's going to brief it, but I'll just give a little backstory about, whether or not you you can be more powerful than a Geo Metro. So Geo Metro is 3 cylinders. It doesn't have a lot of horsepower, and I calculated out back in the day. Who knows if the math is correct? But if you can do the workout with all the weight and bar path and all that other junk, and you can do it fast enough, then you are either more powerful or less powerful than a Geo Metro. And that's the goal every Thanksgiving around here. So Ashley will brief it, and then we could talk about tips. I don't have a ton of tips. It's one of our shortest Meet Yourself Saturday. It's not even really Meet Yourself Saturday. It's more of like tradition type stuff.
It's kind of like a Fran if you think of it like that.
Yeah.
It's going to suck if you do it correctly, though.
Yeah.
Really quick.
Yeah, really quick. So you got complete this one set for time. You have 15 handstand push-ups, 10 cleans, 10 strict pull-ups, 20 deadlifts, 25 push-ups, 15 back squats. The reps have to be unbroken, and you keep the same weight. So if you're male, if you're doing the cleans, the deadlifts, and the back squats, that'll be at 135. If you're female, it's 95 pounds. That is the you can obviously scale that weight down.
Yeah, that's the top end.
Yeah.
Because you don't need to go any heavier than that. So you can scale down below 135 for males and below 95 for females if you want.
Yeah. So then if you finish that in a time of 3 minutes and 36 seconds or less, you're more powerful than a Geo Metro. If you are 3 minutes, 37 seconds up to 4 minutes, you're as powerful as a Geo Metro.
Yeah, you are equivalent.
And then if you are over 4 minutes, you're less powerful than a Geo Metro. So
#, goals.
yeah.
Yeah.
I am as powerful as this car.
Yeah.
As like one of the crappiest cars ever made.
That most people don't even
What's
know what
funny
it
is when I first created that workout, I had the idea. I was like, oh, it'd be really cool if I could be like, make a workout that like you're as powerful as a Ferrari and like, all this
The
stuff.
math said
And then
no.
I started doing the math and I was like, oh, wow, it's really hard to generate any significant horsepower as a human being. So I found a 3-cylinder piece of crap car that they don't even make anymore that, you can be as powerful or more powerful if you can do it something really fast. I don't know, any tips, strategies from you, Ashley?
I'm going to go with the Jared method. You just got to go fast through this
There you
one.
go.
You seriously do.
Took mine, dang it. So go fast, Joe. What do you have?
I mean, if you rest, you have to rest in between exercises.
Yeah, because the reps have to be unbroken.
And I'll go ahead and if you're looking to be as powerful or more powerful than Geo Metro, you cannot rest. Like it's a 3.5 minute workout. You can't rest. But if you need to, yeah. What do you got?
I just looked on my app, and actually my PR time on here is 3:39. So I'm as
dang.
powerful, or I was when I did it.
Yeah.
So I'm as powerful as this car. It's like you just said. Like it's 3.5 minutes. Just
go.
do it. Just do it.
Yeah, not a lot on this one. I mean, the only thing I could probably, if you're not familiar with doing handstand push-ups, widen. There's a sweet spot. If you have a real narrow grip on the handstand push-ups, then you're going to be pushing too far. So try to find that. But if you go too wide, you won't have any pressing power. But there's a sweet spot in between on too wide and too narrow to where you can really crank out some really fast handstand push-ups. And I think that's where a majority of people, 15 handstand push-ups is a lot. I actually have a video of me doing this workout in faster than 3:36, but I don't know. It was back in the day. I was playing with iMovie and I like time lapse some of it and all this other stuff. It's a funny video. Go watch it. It's a Garage Gym 02 in there in my second garage gym ever, and you guys check it out. But that's it. You guys have anything else, Spartan or related?
Glad we survived.
Yeah,
Strength in numbers.
yeah. Join
That's
us.
true.
Join us at Garage Gym Athlete for a free trial. If all the pain and misery we just went through sounds appealing to you, then hey, you're the perfect fit for what we do. So why not join us?
That's it.
All right, guys. Until next time. Thanks for listening to the Garage Gym Athlete podcast. If you want to learn more, go to garagegymathlete.com. You can learn about our training. Let us send you a copy of our book, The Garage Gym Athlete, or you can even get featured on the Garage Gym Athlete podcast. Thanks for listening.